Welcome to this segment of Candidates Forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County and TCTV. My name is Nancy Scott. I'll be the moderator for this segment of Candidates Forums. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government. Part of our work to inform citizens about government is interviewing candidates, letting you know what the candidates' positions are on some major issues. In this segment, we'll be interviewing two candidates for Tumwater City Council. Joan Cathey and Debbie Sullivan are running for Tumwater City Council. We're going to start with with opening statements from the two candidates. Joan Cathey, would you be our first opening statement?
Thank you, Nancy. One of the things I want to say is thank you to the League for doing this. I think it's important that voters are informed, and I'm grateful to the League for doing this. I've been here before. As I was introduced, I'm Joan Cathey. I am currently your City Council member. You, the people who are watching this, voted for me 4 years ago, and I'm planning on you doing the same again. So a couple of things I'd like to say. I told you last time I ran 4 years ago that I believed in servant leadership. And I've had many people ask me what that means. And to be a servant is to give to service, to public service, to people, to find the needs, to know those, to listen, to care, and then to take action as a policy maker. And leadership is an important thing. I have had a lifetime of leadership locally and in other places in elected positions and as a community leader, organizer, and then these last 4 years on City Council, where we have accomplished many things in these 4 years, some of which I have been personally responsible for bringing forth, and then as a group with my colleagues, we have changed some policies and added some things. I'm very proud of the record and putting public safety first, and also advocating for seniors and vulnerable citizens, as well as the 3 years I've spent on the Budget Committee and keeping essential services alive. So it's been a good 4 years, and it's time to keep that momentum going, and to re-elect me is to do that. And so I'm counting on that.
Thank you. Debbie Sullivan, your opening statement.
Thank you. And again, I would like to also thank you for having this opportunity to speak. My name is Debbie Sullivan. I'm running for Tumwater City Council position number 3. I moved to Thurston County in 1989 and to Tumwater in 1997. I have a lot of business experience. I have been a co-owner of 2 small businesses and a partner in a real estate appraisal firm. I have both private and public sector experience. I am currently working at the Washington State University in their Extension Energy program. I am very active in the community. I volunteer through community services for approximately 18 years. I am also a advisory board member of the Newmarket Vocational Skills Center Office Automation and Technology for 5 years. I also am a founding member of South Puget Sound Mobile Search and Rescue. I am endorsed by several leaders within the community. I am endorsed by Councilmember Ed Hildreth, Councilmember Judy Hofling. I'm also endorsed by the Tumwater Firefighters and also endorsed by the Tumwater Police Guild. I have also other community leaders that I've been endorsed by is former Mayor John Halverson, Sheriff John Snaza, and other groups such as the Affordable Housing Council. I think I have a lot of experience I can bring to the community. I am chair of the Tumwater Planning Commission. I feel that is why I am qualified to serve on the Tumwater City Council. I've been on the Planning Commission since 2003, and I have been chair for the last 4 years, selected by my peers to hold the position of chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now go to our prepared questions, and we'll get the first question for you, Debbie. What would be your recommendations for Tumwater's growth and development? And please address first, population or residential growth, and then business or public agency growth.
Well, we've recently, in the last few years, had a very large annexation, which almost doubled the size of the city of Tumwater. So we have a lot of area that we need to grow into. We have not increased our fire or police staff to deal with the increase. So I think at this point we need to infill into the area with smart growth. Being on the Planning Commission, we have dealt with zoning and the appropriate growth. So I think we're on the right track, but I think it'll be a few years before we really infill the size that Tumwater is at the moment.
Joan,
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, what would be your recommendations for growth and development, and address both residential population growth and business and public agency growth?
It is true that we have annexed and that Tumwater's population has doubled in the recent 4 years. I am looking toward the kind of responsible, sustainable growth that involves a couple of things. One is our treasured brewery property and how we're going to work toward developing, redeveloping, repurposing the buildings and that sense of place and recreating that. I believe that's key to Tumwater and to our growth. And that leads me to say, you ask about residential, to neighborhoods. We are putting emphasis on what are the neighborhoods in Tumwater, and we're calling that the brewery neighborhood, and then other neighborhoods throughout the city where we can make it possible for citizens to come together in difficult times, hard economic times, and be proud of their community, beginning with smaller community groups.
Joan, you'll begin with this question. In this time of budget shortages, what are your budget priorities for Tumwater's next 4 years? Can current services be sustained, or are there going to be cuts, and what cuts would you make?
Well, one of the things, this is a good time for this question. I'm glad it wasn't like 2 or 3 weeks ago. The citizens of Tumwater, after the council that I'm on, and I was definitely a part of this and a part of the mini studies, we just passed a levy lid lift. So there is going to be a slight raise in taxes, and this was for public safety. We would have had much more drastic budget cuts or cuts to services had we not passed this levy. And we worked hard to do this. And I actually have a letter here from the Chief of Police complimenting the council on courageous leadership in putting this forth. So as far as budgets that have to do with public safety, no, we won't need to make cuts like we were concerned about, and we will begin immediately planning to use the monies and the promises we made in our levy lid lift. And as far as the budget, I've been on the budget committee for the last 2 years, and one of the things we did is we went to a biannual budget, which means we budget for 2 years, so we get a broader view of what the city's needs are to cut down on the need to make drastic changes. In our staffing at City Hall, we've done a lot through attrition, and we made some changes in our development services to community development, and we saved some positions and rearranged there. We were positioned in the previous administration to look toward these years that were going to be difficult. So I look for us to continue our level of service and maybe slightly less in some of the areas that people notice, like picking up the trash in the park, for example. But this is why the development of communities is going to be so important in the budgeting process. Thanks.
Debbie.
Well, my 3 positions for running for Tumwater City Council is public safety, economic development, and fiscal responsibility. I think that with our economic times, we are going to find it very critical to think of new ways and to manage the services that we have right now. We're going to have to partner with businesses. We're going to have to encourage businesses to come to Tumwater. We're having a number of businesses that are leaving the city of Tumwater, and so we need to make that change so that they are wanting to come back into the city of Tumwater. We can't live on property taxes alone. We do need a balance of the city, both residential and business. We need to make sure that we don't lose half of our population during the day as the state workers leave the city of Tumwater. It doesn't support the community on a day-to-day basis to lose half the population after 5 o'clock on Monday through Friday.
Debbie, the next question for you. Please describe your vision or goals for the new Tumwater Town Center.
Tumwater Town Center has been on the agenda the whole entire time I've been on the Tumwater Planning Commission since 2003. It was already had pretty much made it through the visioning portion of it. We have some challenges with that, with the fact that it is located on port property. A majority of it's located on port property. With mixed use, we still have a lot of area to develop in the Little Rock Road sub-areas. So we need to do something to make this more viable. One of the areas that I think we need to readdress is the size of the city blocks. We want to make it walkable, but the city blocks are just way too large. So we need to look at some maybe redesign changes. Right now we're looking at the variance of having a drive-through on the outskirts for the very edge of the Tumwater Town Center because a bank would like to locate there. There is no drive-throughs allowed. So we need to kind of see what's working and what's not working and make the adjustments that will help bring businesses into that area. I think we've had a beautiful vision of that, but we need to, I think with the economics the way it is now, it might be a little longer than what we would like to see.
The Tumwater Town Center.
Well, the Tumwater Town Center has had some issues, and the fact that it is on port property makes it different for the city. It's not like us just developing our own property. And the mixed use as it relates to residential is a very difficult thing because of the airport and because of the restrictions that we have with the landing and the taking off of airplanes there. And so that has been a restrictive type of thing. The idea of a town center where most of the people who come in are workers for the day and then leave, it makes it very, very challenging to create a center, a hub, a place where people can be. And that's been the challenge there. And making it walkable has been difficult, and I think it will continue to be. And Tumwater is challenged by a creation or a recreation of what Tumwater wants to call a town center.
Joan, begin this question with you. The use of the property associated with the two brewery sites has been a long-standing issue. I remember when turning off the horn was a big issue.
Oh, yeah.
What do you see as a successful use of these properties, and what, if anything, can the City Council do to advance the successful use of those properties?
I'm excited about the brewery property. I want to make it clear to every person, to every voter, once again, the City of Tumwater does not own that property. That is not ours, that is privately owned. And so there are challenges with all the different parcels of the property down there and how we go about checking out who owns what and how we can build and change on that. One of the exciting things about the brewery property is, and for Tumwater as a city, a river runs through it. A beautiful river runs through it. And one of my visions for that property is to make that river more publicly accessible to the citizens of Tumwater. And we also have the issues of dealing with a floodplain down there and all of the things that back when you built this in the late 1800s, many of these things, Shoreline Management Act and some of the building codes were not there. But I also want to say that the City of Tumwater and Thurston County Regional Planning received a $90,000 grant to do a study and to do a community gathering around this brewery question. And that time that has been dedicated to finding out what the community wants to do there has been some of the largest involvement, public involvement in a question or in a purpose. And I happen to bring a couple of the things that the citizens have said. They want mixed use, residential, commercial, public center, a hub for Tumwater, like a downtown district. And what people don't want are chain stores, gas stations, heavy industrial. And they say the Capitol Boulevard is an entry to Tumwater and also makes that connection with the pioneers and with this brewery property. We've had lots of input.
Debbie, what do you see as use of the brewery?
Well, this is a topic that's been very active in the Planning Commission, and I also was actively involved in all of the public meetings and helping facilitate some small groups. So I got to hear what the public did have to say, and I think that's very important, being on the Planning Commission, to kind of know where they want to go. We need to look at the zoning. We're right now working on the shoreline protection ordinances, and so we're working on how to balance those things that bring in the right kind of businesses and help the business owners or the property owners bring in the right people to develop that fits the vision of the citizens of Tumwater. In this economic time, I think it's going to be realistic if the citizens don't expect this is going to happen overnight. It's going to probably take several years. It could take as many as 10 years before we really start seeing some movement. They have broke the property up into several different parcels, so it'll be a little easier to develop certain areas of it than others. The main brewery building is going to be quite challenging.
Debbie, this next question is for you. You have another big piece of property in Tumwater that Tumwater doesn't actually own, and that's the airport. And there was recently a master plan, and there were some major issues about increased traffic, environmental issues. Again, this is part of the Port of Olympia Commission's responsibility, but what input would you give to the Port of Olympia about the use of the airport?
Well, actually, one of these topics has come to the Planning Commission regarding the use. There was a couple of businesses that wanted to come in and open distribution centers on the property areas next to the freeway. The Planning Commission spent approximately 4 months working on what we felt was a good balance. We understand that the citizens of Tumwater do not want large distribution centers. I know they don't want distribution centers the size of Target. So what the Planning Commission did is we made a determination that the building should take up no more than 40% of any particular piece of property. Permeable surfaces should not be more than 60%. We had landscaping rules, we had building design regulations. We were bringing forward to City Council a lot of alternatives that would bring these jobs and these businesses to Tumwater, and the City Council chose to vote against this. This was disappointing to the Planning Commission since we had put in a lot of effort. With this, the property is still sitting vacant. The port, it does have challenges, and I think we need to do a better job working with the port to come up with solutions that work both for the citizens of Tumwater, for the port, and for the city of Tumwater in general.
Okay. Joan, how do you see the airport being used? Or what input would you have to the...
Well, my opponent here didn't answer the airport part of it, but talked about the warehouse issue, which is in the neighborhood south of the airport. So I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about the airport, but I'd like to respond to what she said, since I'm part of the council that voted against the large use of warehouses that abutted neighborhoods in South County. So I'm not exactly sure what part of the airport question that you wanted answered.
May master plan raised the issue of noise, increased traffic, environmental issues associated with the airport.
There is the noise, there's increased environmental issues, there's getting an airline to come in here. I want to be clear about this warehouse issue. Warehouses do not produce humongous amounts of jobs. And we're not talking about airport traffic when we're talking about warehouses. We're talking about trucks, clean air, up and down people's streets in front of schools, and this kind of thing. The issue that the Planning Commission put forward to the City Council was unacceptable as a neighborhood plan in an area south of the airport.
Okay. Joan, this is our final question. Joan, we'll ask you first. Given the budget shortages that affect everything, so what do you see as 2 additional challenges that will impact Tumwater in the next 4 years? And then how would you deal with them, I guess?
Is the question, what are the 2 extra budget challenges?
What do you see as 2 additional challenges that will impact Tumwater in addition to budget and in the next 4 years, and how do you propose to deal with them?
Well, I'm looking for things that don't have to do with the budget or that don't have to do with money, which is a hard thing to do. One of the things that Tumwater needs to look at, it does have to do with money. It has to do with matching grants, and that is transportation and roads and our infrastructure. Those are challenging things for Tumwater. The other thing is the business retention first of businesses in Tumwater, as well as attraction. I've spent the last 2 years on the Thurston County Economic Development Council, which I've been the Tumwater representative to that. And I've been part of talking to business owners and why do they leave Tumwater, why do they want to come to Tumwater, which is part of the reason one of our challenges was to make some of our codes and ordinances more predictable for development in Tumwater. And we have done that. We have changed our community development department to from development services to community development, and I think that's a big step. We've already gotten positive response from people who want to develop or who are just trying to build a garage on their house. That's an important thing. Also, I was part of a small group through the Economic Development Council to work with the business in Tumwater as they were bringing back to the United States from China some of their manufacturing. We were not able in Washington, we worked with the governor and many others to have that part of the business come to Tumwater. But the main part of this, it's Gerbian's Heated Clothing, and I love seeing in their window world headquarters of their in Tumwater. And so attraction of business, retaining of business, making sure our roads, working on Capitol Boulevard, making it more walkable, those are challenges that are going to impact the livability and the viability in every way of Tumwater.
Debbie, what do you see as the 2 major challenges?
Well, I see the 2 major challenges with this economic times is having businesses being able to open. The lending in this country is very, very tight. I think we could look outside the box. I think that we could look at other alternatives to bringing viable things into this community, such as trade centers or training in skills other than a 4-year college, so technical schools. We do have Newmarket Vocational School, we have South Puget Sound Community College, but I think we can even bring in something more specific to maybe high-tech energy related. We also might want to look at high-tech companies, seeing what it would take for them to move into this community for development. We do have Intel and DuPont. We are a high-tech community, and I think Tumwater is just has an opportunity for growth and development for the next Microsoft or some other organization that may be the new technology coming into our community.
Thank you. Now we'll be going to our closing statements. We'll begin with you, Debbie. What would you like the voters to remember about you?
Yes. Well, I understand I am not the incumbent here, but I think I bring a fresh, new approach. And again, with having the endorsement of the Tumwater firefighters, the Police Guild, who have never endorsed any candidate that anyone can remember. I think I will bring more balance. Being both in public and in private, I will bring something new, a new thought, a new process to doing that. And I believe that my time serving on the Tumwater Planning Commission makes me ready for moving on to City Council.
Thank you. Joan, Cathey, your closing statement.
Yes. Once again, I want to thank the League, and I want to thank the voters who have voted for me over the years and have put me in this position where I have been making decisions for the last 4 years that impact the citizens and the city of Tumwater, and I am well positioned to continue to do that. Making the decisions, being the leader, and speaking for the issues that we've talked about here today is absolutely key. I am a strong voice. I am a clear voice. I am a person who has a listening and a communicative heart for the people of Tumwater. And to re-elect me is to continue to invest and reinvest in Tumwater's best future, which I believe is still ahead of her. It's going to be a ways to go, but we can get there only together, and keeping leadership consistent and broad and alive and encouraging to the citizens.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being with us in this segment of Candidates Forums. We want to thank TCTV for sponsoring this, and thank our 2 candidates for being with us. Thank you. Be sure to vote in November or mail in your ballot.